Good evening and welcome to our final show for the year, Men Talk. We are having this show for the last time in a year. I think we had a very good run, and studying will be coming back again next year. So probably the plea is, as we are studying, um, as we are ending today, on a comment section, please tell us on how we have run in the past few months with all the topics. If you like what we are doing, and please don't be afraid to suggest the topics that we should be studying with, studying next year, so that we can probably do the stuff that you like. And one other announcement, as usual, a shout out to the people who are making all this work possible, and starting with Divine Grace Jubilee Fellowship Church in Jabulane. We actually don't have their numbers. We should actually organize their numbers to be there. Umfundisi Ngubeni should probably have in our numbers wake, and you guys can check up with him if you are interested in giving to the church or visiting them, or they're doing such a great work in making sure that this program runs on air and everything goes. And then just for November, we've got the guys coming in by leading Him Foundation and making sure that playing their part in the leadership of men, heeding the call for men leadership. And back to the program for today. Today we'll be talking the participation or involvement of men in our society. How do we get men involved? How do we, and what role can the men play in our society? And I have Dr. Matthew, I struggle with the surname, but it's Dr. Matthew Omondiale. He will actually introduce himself and then tell you more about himself. He's a motivational speaker and a counselor, and he's been involved in a lot of humanitarian exercises. And Dr. Matthew, how are you, my brother?
I'm blessed. How are you, sir?
Good, thanks. Dr. Matthew, we know each other from Divine Intervention in under Johannesburg district, and I've already seen the work that you are doing, especially in the Joburg area, the prayer sessions that you are running and stuff like that. But beyond that, who is Dr. Matthew?
Thank you so much, Pastor Immanuel, for having me on this show. By the grace of God, I'm Dr. Matthew Omondiale. I'm the senior pastor of Church of God Mission International, the South African church. We've got our headquarters in Nigeria. The church was founded by Archbishop Benson Dausa of blessed memory. And also, by God's grace, I'm a certified marriage counselor. We also do mental health counseling, and also we're involved in a couple of things, like you earlier mentioned some humanitarian service, and one of them actually is our yearly contribution to the community where we are. We call it One Man, One Blanket. We actually encourage and motivate everyone within our circle of influence to at least donate one blanket towards the winter season, which we take to the streets and share to the street kids and those that don't have such coverage. So it's just one of those things that we do in our area.
Okay. All right. And talking about that, I think the view of the gospel, and this is just not me, I'm sure with the interaction that we had for a couple of months that we've known each other, it's that the gospel is not just in the pulpit. We are taking it out there in the communities so that we can make a meaningful, definitely to make a meaningful impact. So in your working, let's start there. How do you do this? How engaged are you in community work in the Johannesburg CBD?
Oh yes, we are situated in the heart of Johannesburg CBD. We're just next to Capitol Center, and so we're in the heart of where everything is happening, both the good and the bad. And we try our best to make sure that we carry everybody along. We, try to reach out to even the people that others don't want to identify with. From time to
Yeah.
time we reach out to them. We have an outreach drive that we usually go out to share food and share clothing and other things with these people and just show them love and make them understand that they are not less of a human being just because of what they are facing or their current situations. And by the grace of God, God has also used us to reunite some young people back to their families, like those that are in Johannesburg, just roaming the streets and they don't know how to get back home, maybe because of the things they have done before they left home and all of those stuff. When we engage them in conversation, we discover that some of them are actually quite intelligent and, they speak
Yes.
properly. So we reach out to those ones. We try to minister to them in the best way that we can. And since we don't have a facility where we rehabilitate them, we try to connect them back to their families. And by the grace of God, we have been effective in that area. And also we reach out to some of these guys in the streets who are involved in crimes and all that. And personally, I think most of the criminals in the CBD, they know my face already now. The other day, some of them, they were trying to attack somebody, and the moment they saw me, I was putting on my face mask, and when I brought the face mask down, they said, Pastor, what are you doing walking close to this person? We're just about to attack this person, and just because of me, that person was safe, that day. You see, so
Yeah.
I believe that, because of the love that we show them, because of the way that we reach out to them, it has made them to also give us some respect, and there is a lot of possibility for a change and a better society if we have more people actually reaching out to these people.
Okay. Now, based on,
Yeah.
I mean, we are celebrating the Men's Month in November, and my biggest concern is how do we get men to get into being involved in community building, being involved in impacting our communities, or maybe let me pose the question like this: what difference would it make if we can get men super involved in community work and doing exactly what you are doing? Or do they need to be pastors in order to do that? Or, where do we start?
Yeah, it's going to make a whole lot of difference if we are able to get men involved in, social work or community service and all of the stuff. It will make a whole lot of difference. And I believe the place to start from is men empowerment programs, just like your platform, for example. I personally have been craving for a platform like this that focuses on men,
Yeah.
because there's this less attention given to men, and yet so much is expected from man. Even the Bible says, to whom much is given, much is expected. You can't give
Yes.
less, to someone and then expect a lot from that person. And I think that is where a lot of men are breaking down and just giving up. I believe
Yeah.
that we need to start with programs, activities, and other forms of engagements that deals with empowering men. First of all, mentally,
Yeah.
the man has to be properly educated. He has to be properly informed to understand his configuration, his responsibilities, his personality, and the whole responsibility that lies upon his shoulders as a man. When they are properly informed, that is an empowerment on its own. It's an empowerment on its own, because you see, we live in a society today where if a man is crying, even other men will be laughing at him. Like, why are you crying? Can't you be a man? You know. But when it's a woman crying, everybody wants to give the woman the support. Everybody wants to, you know, be there and all of this stuff. But less attention and support is actually given to the men, which I think is one of the reasons why we are having less participation, especially in the area of men showing up and coming up to take responsibility and all that, because you can't give what you don't have, basically.
Yeah. And
Yes.
with what you are doing specifically, I would want to know, how much support do you get from, let's start from the state.
At the moment, we're not getting any support from anyone. It's just something that we are doing within ourselves. We are a very young church. We are less than 100 people before COVID. After
Okay.
COVID, we became less than 50. But we have not
Okay.
allowed that to discourage us, you know, from what we are doing. We still engage in our outreach programs. Every now and then we are out there doing what we have to do for the community, because that's the essence of the church
Yeah.
in the area. You know, it's not just all about building people, you know, inside. What we have taught them, we expect them, you know, to go out and you know, practicalize it, because love is practical. It's not teaching.
Yes.
It has to be shown. It has to be demonstrated, and that is what we are doing. But so far, it's just something that we, you know, raise funds within ourselves to, you know, also contribute our own quota to the community. There's no support from anywhere at the moment.
Yeah. I'm asking this because of most of the people would actually look at the support being the anchor for doing the work. And if there's no one coming saying support you, they don't do the little that they can do at that particular time. It's like they are waiting to be funded or to be sponsored before they can move on. And I just wanted probably to use you as an example that you've started even though there was no support. The little that you could do, you actually got on track and start building from that. Now, I'm thinking as you're talking, because of I know there's a couple of men that are around you, so you must be impacting men one way or the other. So, what do you see as the biggest problem for men in coming forward and giving up what they have?
Okay,
I mean, in terms of,
personally, sorry?
I was saying in terms of helping out in the community and partaking, what is the biggest stumbling block for them?
Well, from my side, you know, I would say that is the issue of identity. You know, a lot of men actually, especially in this age and time, they suffer from inferiority complex. They don't have that boldness. They don't believe in themselves. They don't see
Okay.
themselves as role models, you know, because of maybe the mistakes that they have made and the
Yeah.
challenges they are going through. They judge
Mm.
themselves by their social and economic status. Yeah, especially in the world that we live in today, it's like if you don't have money, you know, nobody listens to you. But there are many things that men can actually do without money. You know, there are a lot of things that we can actually do without money, because most of the times when we go into the streets, we don't share money to people, you know, just that little
Yes.
food that we share, but it gives us the opportunity to, you know, engage the people in conversations, you know. So I believe that if we start correcting the issue of identity crisis and just
Yes.
empowering the men mentally to understand who they are. You are not a man as a result of what you do or what you have done. Basically,
Mm.
you know,
Mm.
you are first
Yeah.
born a man. They need to
Yeah.
understand that you are first born naturally as a man.
Amen.
So that's what puts you in the position of being a man.
Yeah.
So when you understand that first, then you start working towards empowering yourself in the area of your strength, and then because we all are good in one thing or the other, that we will
Yeah.
be able to strengthen those areas and be master in those areas. Then from there you will be able to also impact somebody and teach somebody, and also pass on the knowledge and the value that you have been able to acquire. So if I think that the major problem there is just identity crisis. If we can deal with that, then we can begin to make some progress.
Oh, okay. No, I hear you. The thing that we keep on hearing from when we started the men's program, this November move, that you just said now, that kind of hit me, is that men get to hide themselves, believing that they don't have any effect, or they cannot do anything simply because of the mistakes that they've done in the past. But the little that do they know that everyone fails. There's no person who moves from one point to another and who can say, from when I was young, I'm now 35 years old or 30 years old, and I've never messed up in anything. Everyone fails at some point. So it is this
That's right.
failing that actually, treated right and learning from it, builds us to be better people. So
That's
if
right.
also we can probably shout that to men more than anything else, to say it is okay. You don't fail because of you are useless. You failed because of everybody fails. Somehow,
Yeah.
somewhere, one thing that you excel in, somebody else fails, and wherever you fail, somebody excels in. That's the nature of being different. And now I'm
Failure
thinking,
is actually progress in itself,
yes, yes, yes,
because you failed because you were trying to do something. You don't fail doing
yes,
nothing, So that is
exactly,
success on its own.
yes. That's the journey of
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And I'm thinking now, what are the challenges that you have faced in the move, in trying to reach out to the central Johannesburg? Or maybe let's not limit it in Johannesburg, because I don't know where you've been. But what are the challenges that you've actually faced in developing men, and in the outreach programs?
Okay. One of the challenges that we have faced, especially in Johannesburg, where we are, is the issue of um, being able to effectively communicate with some of these people that we are trying to reach out to, because sometimes what they want is different from what you are giving them. So sometimes you get insulted, you get abused, you get, you know, discouraged as a result that maybe the people you are trying to help, they're trying to, assault you or don't
Yeah,
listen to
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Yes, but we understand their position and their situation, so we don't take it to heart, because we already prepared ourselves before we went out.
yeah.
Then secondly, another thing that we having as a challenge is resources,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because it's what we do within ourselves. So yeah, we are limited in terms of resources. Like I
Yeah,
said, some of the people that we reach out to, at the end of the day, it's only one out of 100 that would agree to say, I want to go back home. Can you help me link to my parents and all of that stuff? So that's
mm,
one area that we are facing challenge, because in the CBD we don't really have like a place where we can actually take them to, you know,
yeah,
uh,
yeah,
to
yeah,
monitor them and their progress by ourselves.
yeah, yeah.
And apart from those in the streets, another challenge that we facing uh, here, I think, is the problem of ideology. You know,
Okay.
there are some people that will not want to listen to you, no matter what you present to them, and all of this stuff because of ideas or experience in the past. So it
Yeah.
takes us quite a lot of time to be able to, reach out to such people and make an
Mm.
impact. Yes,
Yeah.
and the fact that sometimes uh, the foreigner factor comes in as well,
I was actually about
because
to ask you that.
yes, because there are some places that you can't even enter just because you're a foreigner. They won't
Yeah.
listen to you. Once you come speaking English, just forget it. You know.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So what we do in such areas sometimes we push our fellow South Africans forward who understand their language. To talk to them and let them know that no, we are here to show them love and all of this stuff. So
Mm.
yeah, just there are different kinds of limitations and challenges we face every now and then. But we've
Yeah.
just accepted it as part of what we need to conquer in order to, get through to the community.
Okay. Now it's actually an amazing thing, because I
Mm.
wanted to ask you as we were talking to say, being a foreigner is not probably such a big thing for you that people will just be like, "Aye, he's a foreigner. You can't listen to that man." And but
Mm.
to other people, I think who are listening now, it just hits me that I urge everyone who's listening that if you know of any sponsorship, any places of safety, if you know of anyone who or any organization that can probably help in the things that Dr. Matthew is doing, please shout out. You can just leave us a message, a comment. We can hook you up with Dr. Matthew, and you can be able to help them out in the programs that they are doing. Because of I'm reminded of the words that says, "There's no self-made man,"
Mm.
and just because of you have the passion for it, it doesn't mean that you are responsible in pushing it. And it probably needs some other organization out there to jump in and help your wagon to move, to push you as far as and as fast as they can be able to push you. So maybe this is just a call for other organizations as well, and people who can know other organizations. I'm thinking it's hard because of we also deal with young people that we find in police station in our communities who really want to change and give up drugs and stuff like that, but we don't have relationships with rehabilitation centers, and we
Mm.
are working tirelessly, and we need rehabilitation centers to actually come up and introduce
Mm.
themselves to people. So anyone
Yeah.
with information and anyone with a knowledge or know-how, or you're working for that organization, please give us a comment or try to contact us. Let us hook you with not just Dr. Matthew, but also the other organizations that are already out there doing the work of trying to fix our communities. I would like to go
Mm.
back to Dr. Matthew. What's the importance of developing men in our community? I mean, it's not just doing work in a community. But as you have spoken about the identity of a man, and a lot of men are lost. And when I say a lot, I would say a huge fraction of our men are lost. Even the middle class. It's not a matter of having the rich of the poor, having and the non-haves. But you find that you have
Mm.
a middle class that earns a lot of money, but when you look at their lifestyle, you realize that they are completely lost. What's the value in it? What do you see as the biggest thing that can happen if we stop chasing after developing men in our communities?
Well, if we stop, the community itself is going to collapse because there's no community or society without a man. That is one.
Mm,
Secondly, I really advocate for the empowerment of men, especially in the society where we are today. There's been a lot of focus on women, which I am not against. But as much as we
yeah,
are focusing on the women to strengthen them, empower them, we should also, empower the men. I once had an interview where, we were discussing the issue of women abuse. Then I asked a question: who is abusing the women? And they
Yeah.
said the men. And then the program was centered on empowering the women. And I said, what exactly, if you are dealing with abuse, so what exactly are you empowering the women for? Are you empowering them to be able to fight the abuse or the
Mm.
abuser?
Mm.
At the end of the day, you are not solving the problem.
Yeah.
You are not getting the solution, because the problem here, as we have identified, is the man. So why don't
Yes.
we focus on dealing with the man, healing the man, restoring the man, bringing the man back to the society as a complete man who understands his role, his position as a man is to protect a woman and not to abuse the woman.
Mm.
If
Mm.
you are empowering the woman and giving her all the things that she needs to know and need to do and all that, and then you leave the man whom you claim is the abuser, you make the problem worse, because the man naturally, by nature, is domineering.
Yeah.
And if you are empowering the woman now to be like the man or be on the same level of the man or be above the man, then you are creating more problem, in the
Mm.
sense that you are not doing the same thing for the man, to equip the man, to encourage the man, and to understand, so that both of them can grow together and into the maturity of understanding their roles and their position in the society. Then that is why we have, despite all the organizations and government initiatives everywhere, every year, large budgets that has been allocated for women empowerment and all of those stuff, the problem keep increasing every year, because there is less attention on the real problem that we are supposed to be solving, which is the man himself. So the man must be empowered to take his position in the society. And I bet you, if we do that, we have a more progressive society, we have a peaceful society, because,
Mm.
as you know, most of the crime, they are being carried out by men. So if the man is empowered mentally, socially, to be able to know how to relate and communicate with people effectively, and empowered financially, to be able to provide, because there's this natural feeling of joy and fulfillment that a man gets. I'm talking about a man that knows himself. When he's
Yeah.
able to provide for his family, there's this joy,
Mm. Mm.
this pride, this fulfillment that he feels in the inside of him, and if you are taking that economic power from the man and giving it to the woman, which I'm not against it, but at the end of the day, you create more anarchy in the society, because it begins from the home, where the man cannot
Yes.
provide, he cannot stand up for himself, he cannot, be there as the head of the home to make decisions, because he's economically inefficient.
Yeah.
In that situation, you can't blame the man for, the outburst, because, men, they have their own way of expressing their, inabilities to actually accept their weakness,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
of the
I think that's a
inbuilt
big one.
pride. Yeah, because of the
Mm.
inbuilt pride in us and all of this stuff. So men really have to be empowered and repositioned in the society, so that we can begin to have functional homes. You look at most homes today, the men are not there, they are absent.
Yeah.
They are not,
Yeah.
and if you look at it very well, they are not really absent because they want to be absent. They are absent because they don't have what it takes to be present. So they choose the other way, to walk away and be absent. And so we have a lot of single mothers who are fighting, working now like men to raise the child. But the truth of the matter is that no matter how strong a woman is, she can
Mm.
never be a man.
Yes.
She
I
can
agree.
never be a man. No matter how much we educate the woman, she can never be a man. So we need to also find a way to strengthen the manhood of the man and empower him to do what he is born to do as a man. Then our society will be better, I promise you.
You know, as you are talking, I'm reminded of a what I call a village system. That in the past, before we became so civilized, you used to have men. For us, I don't know how you guys did it in Nigeria, but most of the South African cultures, they would send men to the mountain. That's the easiest way of putting it. But sending men to the mountain was not just about circumcision, as other people think, you know, but it was a traditional way of training men on the ways of the culture. You know, the Bapedi will teach men there what it means to be a man. When they come out of the school in the mountain, they have this pride of saying, hey, we are men. You know, and as a man, I should provide. From that time on, when they come from the mountain, there's no way that the mother would actually say, even if there's no father, where the mother could actually say, we don't have food. The boy is already programmed that it is my responsibility to make sure that there's food at home. And then he would go and fetch so he was programmed by the authority then of the or I can call it the custodians of the cultural the cultural system. And we have now children who grow without fathers, number one, and there's no one who takes care of them and say, come, let me teach you how to be a man, let me give you your identity. This in our society, in this day in time, this is what it is needed from you to be a man. This is how you behave around young girls. This is how you do ABCD. And then, you know, I look at my own life, and I grew up without a father, practically. My father was there, but he wasn't really there. He wasn't at home. When I grew up, my mom and dad were divorced. And I get to a point where when I only realize now that I lived a life without a father, but I was guided by a mother all the time. And there are issues that no matter how hard my mother tried, it could not have worked, because of he didn't understand me as a man. He didn't understand the duties of a man. He understood how to be a child. He understood how to raise a woman, but he could not. He did the best that he could. I give it up for my mother, but he could not be able to raise a man because she was not a man. And the worst that is a pain for me, or more like a fear for me, is we are heading into a society that men are born, the fathers have run away, and we have no authority bearers who can say, we will take them, like in the olden days when they went to a mountain, where it was not just the circumcision, but they trained them to be equal standards on the understanding of what it means to be a man. And I think we need a lot of organizations coming up and trying to, and I see a church filling the space very well, to say we as a church should come up and train men. I in this position give a great thanks to God for my pastor, because of he was the only male figure that I could identify with. And I understand that he's treated as, or he was, you know, assumed to be a very hard man and very strict, but that hardness and strictness from his side built a man that I am today. Some of the principles, and I think we need. That's why I'm advocating for this, because of I think what we are missing, the biggest part of it, is that we need men to take responsibility not only of their own children, but to take responsibility of other people's children in their community, to say, there's a saying that a child is raised by a village, you know, and it should not just be a village. Men in the village must take care of young boys in that village to teach them and say, this is how you should become a, this is how you should. And we're taking ownership of this, and we are raising future leaders who will lead as we did, or better. but it should never go down. We should not have a moral degeneration. We should never have the standard of our community dropping. It should be the same or be better as we raise young people. And I think maybe, you know, we need people like you. We need men to come up and stand up. As we close this, I think that's the challenge that I'm giving men, and say, build another man, build another young man out there, build another brother out there to say it's not about the money. I like what you said, and say when we come out into our communities and when we meet each other, we don't exchange the money. We exchange ideas. It's what comes out of our own mouth that speaks and builds the other man. It's not necessarily the money that builds. It's what comes out of our own mouth. It's our actions, our interactions, the things that we say or we say without saying, but by actions, are actually building other people. And if we really cut off in building men, you know, I believe that we, like you say, will be destroying our communities. We'll be destroying the society. There's no way we can have a society without building men. I think women are very good at building women. You know, even if it's in the negative sense, but they are good in doing that because of they can talk and they can act out. But you know, like what you said earlier on, men are afraid. Men it's like men are ashamed because of they couldn't figure out one thing in life. Now they are ashamed that they are failures, and they do not want to bring their masculine forward because of you know, it will appear to be flawed. And we want them to actually come up and say, this is me and this is the best that I can give, you know.
Amen.
So I don't know if there's anything that you can add there, Dr. Matthew.
No, what you are saying is actually very interesting. You know, I was just listening to, you know, that especially the way that South African men have been, you know, trained, you know, through the ways and the customs of their forefathers, you know, of which the truth is we have the same thing in Nigeria, where I come from.
Okay.
Yes, and even in my own place where I come from, we have exactly the same thing. Where though we don't have much of mountains, we may not go to mountains and all that, but we do have that initiation process into manhood where, you know, you are taught and all of those things, you see. And I think that you see, civilization is also very good, but we must not do away with our cultural values. You know, I believe personally that Africa itself is rooted in deep cultural values. You know, growing up, what we were taught as success is different from what we are teaching our children as success now, because of technology, because of you know, whatever they may call it. You know, but then growing up, we were taught integrity, we were taught discipline, we were taught, you know, boldness as a man. You know, we were taught to be hardworking. You know, we were never taught to cut corners. You know, if you even dare to cut corners, you know, to succeed, you will be shamed, you will be punished. You know, you'll be put under a lot of discipline. So we grew up knowing that it is good to be content. We grew up knowing discipline. We grew up knowing that integrity is more important than money. But the society that we are today, you know, they have redefined success for our men, of which everybody, even people who are coming from our own upbringing, we are beginning to give in to this new definition of success. Success means you need to be driving a good car, living in a big house, and, you know, being able to, you know, display money in public, you know, all the shop and all of this stuff. But that was never it when we were growing up, and that was why education was key. People would fight. Those days we celebrated the most intelligent students in our classes, but today we are celebrating the one that is, the parents, have been able to buy a car on credit that is driving to school.
Yes.
Even from that age, from the level of matric, they already have this mindset that it's all about the money.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and it's a very wrong thing that we are passing on to our generation. And I actually fear for the next generation, because any society without moral value would soon expire, because it will lead to a lot of anarchy, it will lead to a lot of chaos, it will lead to a lot of social ills and vices that will destroy the entire society. And we must begin to fight it by all means, and begin to retrace our step to where we have missed it as Africans. It's good to take Western education and all that, but what about our education as Africans? Where is our respect? Like you said earlier, that the raising of a child is a community responsibility. But in Johannesburg, where we are, it's not so. Several times I walk in the street, I will see young students on uniform. They'll be romancing and kissing themselves on the streets. And what do people do? They're walking past and they are laughing. And nobody is even taking the initiative to go closer to these people and educate them and let them know that there's time for everything. This is not what you should be concerned about now, and I'm really concerned about the next generation and what we are teaching our children.
Yes.
I'm really, really so afraid for the next generation, because if you take away moral values, those days in school, I don't know about here, but especially we do Christian religious studies in school then, and then there's what you call moral lesson that comes at the end of the lecture and is boldly written on the board. You have to write it, you have to memorize it, because the objective is to instill moral values on the students, so that they can grow up to be first responsible to themselves, responsible to their family, and then they can be responsible to their community and eventually the society at large. But if you don't teach them responsibility, from that age, to understand what respect is, to understand, their responsibilities as a female child or as a male child, and all of this stuff, from their kindergarten. At the end of the day, we end up just having children who are growing, but they are not developing, who are growing, but they are not improving. They are not matured. They are not taught. And such society does not have a future. Doesn't have a future. So we need to really focus on going back to our roots and working on the man child and even the girl child when it comes to, going back to our roots and culture, because I think we have totally deviated. Because that the type of education we get in schools basically, does not really empower us mentally to think for ourselves, to be creative. It actually, we are being educated, to get out of the system and, all the paper and start looking for an employer that will employ you, and all of those stuff. Forgetting that that employer you are looking for is actually a human being like you, who created something, So the system does not really, produce creativity. I mean, it does not encourage creativity. And we need to, and growing up, we need to go back and begin to study, how did our forefathers survive without technology? How did they make it? How were they able to provide for their families? And you see, these things will help us to become a better people for our nation.
I'm actually three things come into mind as we are talking, and I know that we are running out of time. I think when we come back sometime next year, I must call you again, Dr. Matthew, and then we can discuss this in depth.
It should be a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things is the Human Rights Commission. I know there's a lot of you who are about it, but isn't the human rights probably have pushed us so far off the edge that we have lost ourselves and we're trying to find a new identity that we do not know where it comes from. You know, like you're saying, you guys had religious studies. We also had that. And now it's replaced by something called LO at school, which when I look at it, you know, it's just like just out the window. And because of that, our children has lost a moral compass. Because of there are other children that comes from families that know nothing about God. Their only hope was that religious study at school. Now they lost it. They have no moral compass. They have nothing guiding them. And the second one probably that we can talk about, it's well, the human rights is being one, pushing us back, and then the religious studies. And I usually say this, that's the last one. When we're having community meetings, because I get involved and be in community meetings in different communities. And I would say, if men stand up and say, we are afraid. You know, we spoke about young people kissing in street corners in Joburg. It's not just in Joburg, it happens in the township. And nobody says anything about it. And when you ask, I understand when women say, oh, that's not our business, you know, these kids are. But when men says, that's not my business, I don't want to be standing against this kid. And if men are afraid, then who's going to stand up? If the masculine are afraid in any community, you know that there's never been an army of women. Well, not in Africa. It's always been men. And if the men are saying we are afraid, then who's going? What hope do we have? You know, I look at it. So I think it goes hand in hand with what you said, that men have lost their identity. And if they can understand that we as the elder men in communities, if we say we are afraid, we are actually saying that this society is doomed because of we, the masculine, are afraid.
That's right. So, that's right.
But yeah, with that said, I think there's a lot that we still need to talk about and unpack, I think, in the future. We are just left with around 8 minutes. And there's a bit of a little thing that I wanted to do on the set before we even close. So please stay put, Dr. Matthew, as we are probably preparing to close. Or you have around 2 minutes. Let me not take this opportunity away from you. I said, who is Dr. Matthew? How do people get hold of you? You know, if somebody knows a homeless shelter, rehabilitation center, and say, Dr. Matthew, I think I can help you in this aspect. And how do we get hold of you? Where is Dr. Matthew? What are the numbers and stuff like that?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. At the moment, I have my office at number 131 Commissioner Street in Johannesburg, CBD. We are just opposite FMB next to Captain Center. It's 131 Commissioner Street. Yes. And then my social media handles on Facebook, I am Matthew Omondiale. On Instagram, that's also my name, Matthew Omondiale. Even on YouTube is Matthew Omondiale. Also, I have a website, is MatthewOmondiale.org.
Oh, all right.
You know, if you just www.matthewomondiale.org, you'll be able to, you know, get first-hand information, you know, on how, you know, you can book a session with me, or even just to have my contact details and how to reach me and all that personally is there. Yeah.
That will be awesome. Thank you very much, Dr. Matthew. It was it was an honor and awesome to have you with us today. I know, you know, in our personal space, and I hope that we meet on Wednesday. Doing a little advert here that we are having a prayer at the Johannesburg District Office, office on Wednesday morning, and I know that we'll be meeting there. 8 a.m. Yes, 8 a.m. Very early in the morning. We'll be starting then. And now I would like to take the time. I don't know and give some thanks probably while even the doctor is here. I would like to, is Kilebukile on set? My producer. Mr. Ngubane? Mr. Ngubeni? Mr. Ngubeni, are you here?
I'm here.
Okay. I'm sorry, guys. I just wanted to to probably put you on the spot here. Since it's the last day, I thought it would be awesome for everyone. Every time I give thanks to my executive producer, Thokozani Ngubeni, and I would give thanks to the content manager, which is Kilebukile Sokone, and I just wanted people to see them. Can you just show your faces a little bit, even if it's for 5 seconds, so that people can see who you are? The team who's making things possible. That is our technical producer, Thokozani Ngubeni. Tox, how are you? Oh, okay. He doesn't say much. That's just him.
Wow.
Gila, are you there?
No, it's doing a great work, actually. I must commend that.
Ah, awesome. Thank you, Murut. Is Kile there? Or she doesn't want to come on set?
We dropped her off. She dropped off.
Oh, she dropped off. No, that's fine. And then one last thing. Today, Dr. Matthew, I would just want you to say 2 words and congratulate my brother, Thokozani Ngubeni. He's celebrating his, how many years, Talks? 7 years.
7 years of grace. Yes.
7 years of grace. It's her wedding anniversary.
Oh, wow.
I know that you, yes.
You know, it was in South Africa. I was actually told that if your marriage survived 5 years, then yes. You are actually a married man.
Okay.
You know.
So he's actually been married for 2 years.
oh yes. Because even for us as foreigners, you must be married to your wife, as your South African wife, for 5 years before you can qualify for a permanent residence. You know, so I think there's this 5 years thing that it's like a benchmark that if you are able to cross 5 years, then you have done well for yourself. You know. So I must congratulate you, and I pray that the grace that has survived you and carried you through for the last 7 years will take you further to even more 7 years and more 7 years to come. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Talks, I just want to say congratulations, guys. You guys are awesome. When Rato, you have been pushing this, and sometimes we had to shoot at your place, and you were also always welcoming. May God bless you. May He keep you. May He sustain you. May He make you greater. Yeah, and like other people say, I've learned to love this. May He bless you with more money and more money and money and money.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And to everyone else, who've been watching, thank you very much, guys, for following us. Please tell us about the shows. Are they working for you? Can you suggest topics? Next year we'll be coming back. We'll announce the date as we go. But until then, I am Rasie Mishi signing out. Thank you very much.